Yes. Now, I had sent some screen prints of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, federal legislation granting taxpayers specific rights. Yes. Such as the right to have representation, the right to receive written notice of a levy 30 days before enforcement. Yes. And it could be that the police and sheriff's department didn't understand why I sent that there. Let's say the IRS had decided to levy my property without written notice. And they decided to have court hearings where I was not given any notice of court hearings, so I couldn't arrange for some sort of legal representation. They decided to obstruct my emails and tell everybody that responded, well, he's mentally ill and he's homeless and he doesn't understand what he's talking about. Now, I put that taxpayer Bill of Rights because due process that involves the Internal Revenue Service is just like the due process necessary in the state of Washington. Now, you took my sons, yes, in 2011, without any notice or opportunity to be heard. And you had no proof of service that I had been served. And then when you served me on Guam instead of realizing that you had to wait until I was actually in Washington State or in the United States and could respond to it. Pooch. You can't have court hearings without any due process. Yes, yes. You can't evict somebody from their property without any due process. Pooch. The IRS cannot attach property without any due process. Now, how the fuck is it that this terrorist organization known as a county doesn't understand the requirements of the law? Now, you reissued the protection order after you arrested me for violating it in 2012, May of 2012, without waiting to find out if I was guilty or not guilty. Then, when you reissued it, oops, you had it modified where I did not get to see the actual documentation of the reasoning of the court to modify it. Oh, and then you served me. And you issued it for another 2 years. And then you reissued it in 2015, where there was no attempt of service from June 1st to June 12th, where you legally couldn't reissue it because it was 93 days before its expiration. Now, I want you to understand exactly that if the IRS requires due process, you sure the fuck have to. Now, let's say I called the Internal Revenue Service and I used their literature explaining that even those that are taxpayers have rights in the Internal Revenue Service. Now, for every time you did not give me 5 judicial days notice and an actual notice from a state, I had nothing to take to any pro bono Northwest justice, yes, and say, well, I'd like somebody to be there because I don't understand exactly what's going on. See, it's the notification from the state of jurisdiction that's a requirement of law. And that's what allows me as an indigent pauper, pooch, to be able to get somebody to represent me before you have court hearings. Now, this concept of arresting people for failure to appear, where you say, well, he did know about the court hearing, is not the same as getting notice of jurisdiction. Now, I just can't walk into any old attorney's office and say I got a court date in 2 days from now because a judge requested my presence in court and I wasn't there. They put these requirements of law 5 judicial days, yes, proof of service, so that the accused might be able to get another attorney. Now, I got Jack Range representing me and knowing the number, the considerable amount of lawsuits against the public defender's office in Jefferson County. The biggest mistake you can make as the individual that's going to provide effective counsel is to not ask the accused, where the fuck were you on June 16th and did you send your wife an email? Now, it's your stupid fucking fault to not understand exactly what the requirements of the law are. There is no worse example of ineffective counsel than to not ask the accused, where were you and did you email her? The biggest bunch of fucking fuck ups. Now, I actually sat with Jack during that first court hearing after I got out of jail. I think it was November 1st. I said, Jack, I'm innocent. I'm not guilty. And he said, no, you're going to have a 1077. I'm like, well, Jack, I wasn't in Brennan. Oh, I didn't email her and I didn't email any person that she knows, personally knows. See, I can email Donna Marty Denham, and she might personally know them, Pooch, but they're the ones that signed the marriage certificate. Yes, but when it involves superintendents, co-workers of the Brennan School District, now I emailed Gary Neal, the superintendent of the Squim School District. Yes, and I emailed Vic Rickabine, the principal of a school in Squim, Washington, because my sons had left the city. They were no longer attending school. You could not misinterpret that I was not trying to contact the minors named or the petitioner. Now, for every stupid fuck that happens to have a badge on, your state sponsored terrorism. I'm going to put you in prison, do you understand? Now, you've been fucking up the whole fucking world because of your dogs thinking they're more important than the accused. And I keep giving you the evidence that I didn't commit any crimes. And Jack, you're the worst fucking attorney that any person could ever have to have. Absolutely the stupidest fucking thing you ever did is not ask me where I was on June 16th of 2017.